Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Remote Work Wednesday on behalf of the Remote Online Initiative and K-State Research and Extension Community Vitality Team. We're so glad to have you all with us. I'm Ron Wilson, Director of the Huck Boyd Institute for Rural Development at K-State. Big thanks to Deborah Cole, who's Program Leader Coordinator for K-State Research and Extension Community Vitality, Jan Steen, Jamie Menon, our fellow Community Vitality Specialists are on with us as well. We appreciate them greatly. This is a project of the Remote Online Initiative. In the website in our state it can be accessed as www.kansasremotework.com. Through this program in partnership with Utah State, we're offering month-long online classes that enable participants to become trained and certified as a remote worker or a remote work team leader. This is a free Zoom call on the second Wednesday of each month for anyone interested in remote work. And a quick plug for next month, May 14, Laura Renfro will be our speaker, longtime remote worker and the principal in Renfro Consulting, located in rural Kansas. She's going to talk to us about working effectively with remote clients. The goal of the Remote Work Wednesday is simply to learn about the opportunities and challenges of remote and hybrid work for those who choose to use it. And we're thrilled that our good friend Dr. Paul Hill is our speaker today. Dr. Hill is an extension professor at Utah State University and the founder of the Remote Online Initiative, maybe originally called the Rural Online Initiative, which I appreciated. Paul earned a BS from Utah Tech University, an MBA from Southern Utah University, and a PhD from Utah State. His research interest in the adoption of remote work as a modern workplace practice has led to state and federal funding that has allowed the ROI program to expand beyond Utah to include 10 states, including Kansas. Dr. Hill's contributions to extension programming has been recognized with the Utah Governor's Medal for Science Technology and over 20 national awards from seven different national associations. So Paul has been a pioneer, a leader in this area of study dealing with remote work and been an outstanding partner as Kansas has affiliated with Utah State as well. So we asked Dr. Hill to address current trends in remote work and artificial intelligence. So very timely topic. Paul, thank you for joining us. The floor is yours.
Oh, thanks. Thank you, Ron. I've been a huge fan. It's been good to get to know everyone at K-State. I've collaborated over the years with my first collaboration with K-State has was on the 4-H livestock portfolio app. Does anyone remember that?
Huh.
Yeah, so there were some faculty from 4-H educators from K-State that helped work on that. So that was we were cutting our teeth on apps back in like 2012, but and we were all working remote. Didn't even know it was going to be a thing a little bit later. So it's good to be with everyone. If we could all, I'm going to share some. Basically, I'm just going to go through my web browser and show you some of the things I've been reading. And then afterwards, what I'll do is I'll put together a just a summary with some links. So don't worry about keeping track of all the links and things. Some of them are outdated anyway. Like every 2 minutes, it's like it's outdated. You don't need that information anymore. So we'll go through that. But first, if you can just drop in the chat, uh, would like to know like where you're located and I'm not that familiar with Kansas. I've been to Manhattan and a few other northeast, northwest and some other locations, but just tell me how far you are from campus. That would be good to know. And then I'd like to know just maybe drop a question. If you have a question, I'd love to. An intimate group, so I'd like to know a question that you have, maybe that's just been on your mind, and maybe I can answer it directly or point you to some resources. I don't profess to know all the answers, but I'd love to know kind of what's been on your mind as it relates to work from home, work from anywhere, remote work. It's all the same. Just you're not at an office, uh, at a desk, being monitored. So So yeah, it looks like let's see here. We got some people on campus. So I just like to point to the fact that not a few of you are on campus, but not everyone is. And so I like to say at Extension, we invented remote work. We were the first to do it. And so we might as well be the experts at it and help our rural communities connect to these opportunities as well. And so that was really the impetus behind our remote work training program, not just for job seekers, but also for leaders. So thanks. Yeah, a lot of you, 150 miles from campus, 5 miles, 5 miles is that's just as far, if you're not on campus. Um, and 2 hours, yeah, I'm 5 hours, 5.5 hours from campus. I'm closer to Disneyland than I am Logan, Utah. So and I get really good internet on my phone from the ski lifts up in Bryan Head, which is an hour and a half away. So some days I need to go to the ski resort and go skiing, and it's been a great thing. So and still get all my work done. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen, and if I need to, I'll share sound. Let's do that. So let's jump into it. Does everyone see my screen? And go ahead. Thanks for telling me kind of where you're at. That gives me an idea of how distributed everyone is. Props to Lisa, who's 800 miles away and on a bus trip. Maybe you're a 4-H leader or something. Um, all right. So yeah, if you could just drop a question, something that's been on your mind, maybe a topic about AI, about remote work, and I want to make sure I can address it and provide any insight possible. I might not have any insight whatsoever, so no promises there. But want to get started with when it comes to remote work, we have this RTO, return to office. That's been the hot topic of the day. And and so kind of I want to talk about where we are with that topic of remote work. I've had colleagues just call it work from anywhere, like remote work's become this like bad word almost with you know CEOs, president, administration kind of saying, get back to the office. So we're going to talk about the return to office, what that actually means, based on my perception, and others. And then I'm going to talk about some of the continued remote work issues that we're experiencing after really having adopted remote work, really being forced into it. I wouldn't say we've implemented remote work back in 2020. If you've gone through that adoption process of studying it out and being careful and intentional about it, then I would say you're an adopter of remote work. But if it was kind of forced on you and you never really learned, then you might just be implementing it. And that's been really tough on some people and some organizations. And then I'll jump into artificial intelligence. I can share with you how I'm using it and how others are using it. What are the implications for the workforce, but also extension. And so as we go in there, I think Ron, you posted, there's some pushback from political leaders, about agency remote workers. So we'll talk about that, but also maybe I can help you get some work done today. So I've got all my AI platforms up. And so if you got a task you need to do, maybe I can help you, or AI can help you. So we'll play around with that. So with the start of it all, really return to office is nothing more than a strategy, really just to get employees to quit. And but it's also change is hard for leaders who are not that innovative, and so good employees will they're not going to get rid of people. Good employees are going to get to stay. They're going to get to work from home. I have employees. I say, oh, you're still working remote, but you just got called back to the office. They're like, well, I'm a top performer, so it's fine. I'm like, really? Okay, because that's not what the headlines say. And so good employees are going to get to keep working remote. They're not just going to fire someone who's like the sales leader or a data scientist. But bad employees and those kind of making high wages, they're going to be allowed to walk out the door. And so we've seen a lot of Google employees who were fired, been there 20 years and fired via email. Well, why is that? Are they really underperforming, or are they making so much money? Their wages are so high and they need to cut some budgets. So again, if there's everything's negotiable, and so this is an opportunity for employers to kind of you know, let people go without letting people go. And almost saying, "Hey, return to office," calling everyone's bluff because they'll say, "Oh, I'll quit." Well, go ahead. And then if they do, then if they're a top performer, they can say, "Okay, well, let's negotiate this." If not, well, see you later. So Brian Elliott, he's someone to follow. He has the Work Forward Substack. It's like a blog, and he comments on this a lot and looking at the future of work. But he reports that 70% of executives are admitting that they judge performance by visible activity. And so when people show up, how many hours they log, while employees actually confess to spending 1/3 of their time on work that gives the appearance of productivity. So we're seeing a little bit of productivity theater, and it's really destroying performance and trust. So as you see in this article, it's really difficult uh, to measure goals. And so that's one thing that we teach in our course is how to measure for performance over presence. There was this popular management strategy. I think it was by Drucker. I remember learning about it in business school. It's called management by walking around. And that worked. I worked in a warehouse and that worked. You could clearly see where people were slacking off. If they were not putting things in boxes and wrapping pallets and things like that, then you weren't working. But in today's age of knowledge work, that's harder to do unless you're tracking key performance indicators. And if you don't have those as a leader, leaders need to be establishing those and then holding people accountable that way. So there's a Wall Street Journal article that discusses balance of power kind of shifting back towards bosses. So we saw this period where it was like people were like, forget this, I'm not going to I'm going to quit my job. There was the what do we call that, the where everyone quit. It was the Great Reset, quiet quitting, things like that. And employees were able to say, "Hey, I'm just going to go work from home, and there's nothing you can do about it." Well, that's changing a little bit, but right now we still have pretty low workforce participation, and naturally declining birth rates, even in Utah of all places. And so we're seeing this need for workforce. So it is kind of shifting back towards bosses, but not so much. So but yeah, after really just an extended period of like really elevated worker empowerment, there's just some signs that the balance of power is changing, and at least temporarily back to employers. So they're kind of they feel confident enough at this point in time to say get back to the office. So many companies they're kind of cutting benefits, again, other flexible work privileges and travel budgets as some employers no longer feel they need to compete as hard for talent. And so that's been that's been a situation. So for example, like in this article, Netflix, they ended their unlimited parental leave program, which was like that's why people wanted to work there in a lot of instances. But it was certainly a perk. But the average bonuses in the tech industry fell from like 15,000 to like 14, low 14,000. So a little bit, but that's not that much when I mean, wouldn't it be nice if we got bonuses like that based off our impact statements? But again, this is, they're trimming some of these things to see who's going to get cut. And depending on a lot of tech companies are based on performance. So if that person's hitting all their key performance indicators and they're pretty decent, then they're going to say, oh, let's keep you. Let's figure out a way. But if not, then they'll just let them walk out the door, and then they don't have to let them go, and they don't have to deal with those headlines that say, "Oh, hey, we're cutting all these people." But the one thing that's been interesting is we found in this article is the IRS they're calling everyone back to the office because they have to. And it turns out they hadn't really thought this through. So there weren't enough desks for everyone. And so they expanded their workforce like by 20,000 employees in 2021 under it was the Inflation Reduction Act. Um, but they failed to account for like just basic logistics when like ordering everyone back, but simultaneously during like peak tax season. So again, there's this logistics, these kind of nightmares. People are coming in and not knowing what's going on. But there's pros and cons. So if you're innovative, you can. This is an opportunity. So Verizon, they were like, oh cool, AT&T's calling people back to the office. Sounds good. We'll just recruit them, literally running ads on social media targeting AT&T employees in certain, engineering jobs and others. Um, and uh, and they're recruiting and they're saying, hey, we still do this flexible work, structured hybrid or completely remote. We're all about that. So even Spotify, they I think this article, yeah, this article goes more into how they're with AT&T saying, hey, come back to the office not one day but 5 days a week. And then Spotify is like, whoa, whoa, while all this is going on, we just want to reiterate that we still are a work from anywhere company, and they don't feel. They even said this is like treating employees like children by ending flexible work policies. But yeah, so then let's see here in this article, uh, about 70%, 76% of workers say that they're willing to trade flexible work privileges for a pay raise. So, hey, I don't need that pay raise. I'll actually even take as much as 5, 8, 10% of a pay cut to keep these privileges. So, that's pretty interesting. But we come over to these other articles that discuss kind of this report. Half did a U.S. hiring outlook, which uh, which it talks about what employees are willing to forego in order to keep this flexible benefit. There's a lot of benefits. This is one, and we're finding that, hey, that employees value it quite a bit. And so there's been some analysis that is looking at, hey, you know what? There's some detrimental things going on with, at least in the federal workforce, that this new return to office mandate, it appears to be designed to shrink the federal workforce, obviously, through really just attrition rather than direct cuts. So let people opt out. If they want to stay, eventually they're going to get let go anyway. But they say recent data shows that 75% of remote capable workers now face in-person requirements up from 63% in 2023. So it's looking like, in the private sector, you have Amazon, you have JP Morgan Chase that have led these similar initiatives, that it's all pointing back to, cutting talent, cutting people who are not carrying their weight, that maybe, shirking from home that rather than working from home. But uh, but one thing that the research shows is that the issue is not underperformance or underworking. It's really like overwork. And so the main concern is really burnout. Are people working so much and longer typically, and even on the weekends, because there's not this they don't have essentially a process for turning off work, and that's something that we teach in our course, that they end up working more and getting kind of sucked into work, especially if they enjoy what they do, and so that's been a concern, but it's going to lead to this talent exodus, which is an opportunity for companies that are more innovative, more nimble, that have arranged their work processes and workflows to allow for remote work. So while it is like a negative thing, it could be for those losing employment. It's an opportunity for employers and new opportunities. So yeah, there's been articles just about kind of what everyone's like blaming Trump and Musk, but there's a lot more people involved. But what they're getting wrong about the mandate, but just the fact that if we're focused on productivity, letting federal employees work from home, there's been plenty of studies from the patent offices to the IRS that they actually are more productive at home. And as such, I thought that's what, we're the administration's kind of like, hey, we want efficiency. Well, if you want efficiency, you really need to look at the numbers rather than the productivity numbers versus like say the payroll numbers, but also taking into consideration just for national security. One of the reasons why the federal government was one of the first adopters of remote work is because of the value of distributed work. And when I say distributed work, I'm talking about it's better for the country. It's better to be distributed for continuity of operations. If there is inclement weather in one area, then the operation still continues. Like instances like a terrorist attack in 9/11, not everything was happening for the headquarters, say, of American Express in that location. They were still able, they didn't have to shut down their operations. So for emergency preparedness, continuity of business operations, it's just like part of having like everyone has a family plan for emergencies. We're really good at that and teaching that in extension. And so that's important for businesses as well, especially government. So there was this one report I thought was kind of funny, especially the headline was this return to office moment is chaotic. It was closer to the Hunger Games, but there were the FDA. There were nearly 10,000 employees arrived at their headquarters to find themselves just battling for what parking spaces, standing in security lines that stretched across campus, before the sun came up, and then competing for limited desk space and then basic supplies. So again, if it was really about efficiency, if it was really about these, productivity and things, there would be more thought put into it. But it looks to be more on the lines of like, hey, how can we cut? And it's perfectly within their rights to most rights to do these to for managers to decide whether remote work is right for them or not right for them. It's really it's a business decision, but it's been politicized and it's been used in a way to kind of reduce headcount rather than focus on efficiency. And the media is just eating it up. They've just loved to talk about who has to go back to the office and who gets to stay and all that. So really, just as someone who's like I'm just an observer. If you think it's good for your organization, then USU, K-State will help you with that. But if not, then that's okay too. Like we've been going to the office for years, and it's not going. One's not going to overtake the other. They are what they are. So with respect to continued remote work issues. So we've been working remote. Some people went remote and they haven't been back to the office since 2020. And so one of my favorite authors is the Wharton. He's a organizational psychologist. Dr. Adam Grant is a faculty member there at the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, and he talks about bore out. He's really good at like labeling issues. And that are experienced in organizations, and really he calls it that state of feeling underwhelmed, lethargic, disengaged, and it's becoming increasingly common in remote and hybrid settings. And so remote work never meant that we never get together in person. And so leaders need to be aware of this and look at, hey, we do need to get together. We do need to be energized and inspired by each other. And the hardest challenges of remote work has been mentoring and onboarding, and especially new employees, especially younger employees. And so some young, kids in their 20s, early 30s, a lot of people want to work remote when they're in their 30s and 40s, 50s. They're kind of been there, done that in the office. They're not trying to move up. They've got kids, they've got things. But younger people, remote work's not looking to be the best option. Although they do like the flexibility, they do want to travel. Clearly, they've got more money to travel because they're not buying houses or having kids, and kids are very expensive. There's different generations have different needs, and so it's you got to be careful as a leader looking at if you've got a young workforce. hey, this fully remote may not be the best fit for them, and so providing them regular times to get together. And so it's looking like structured hybrid is a strategy that going forward we're seeing less fully remote, uh, you know, never coming into the office essentially. We're seeing less of that and more of this hybrid. And then there's structured hybrid and unstructured hybrid. Unstructured hybrid is like, well, just come in whenever you feel like it, and that could be chaotic. But the structured hybrids, like those set days that we get together, and the I just was reading a report this morning that showed like the top reasons people want to work remote some days of the week is they want to avoid the commute. They want to, it's the cost savings, and then they've just got a lot going on, scheduling wise. And so those are the top three reasons in that order: commute, um, what was the second one? The commute and the savings, the time savings. We tend to, it was funny. There was a study that showed that we spend less. Remote workers spend less on hygiene, so they buy less deodorant, less clothes. They take less and make up less. And you save a little bit of money. So there's that, but then also the flexibility and other family commitments and things like that. So those are the reasons. But the number one reason why people do want to come into the office is because they want to connect with their coworkers. And so um, providing that structured hybrid approach where they can come together, and then there's a reason why we're actually, we're having meetings, we're doing mentoring, we're ideating, we're being creative. Those are the challenges with remote work, is mentoring, is helping the next generation. It's onboarding them, helping them feel part of the team, but also doing creative endeavors. And then once you've decided what you're going to do and you've divided and conquered, you've got to do some deep work and put your head down and get something written or get something designed. That's great for remote work. But if we never get together, it's really going to hinder innovation. And there's been quite a bit of literature that address that. So working from home, this paper is awesome. Paper was in 2021. So again, it's kind of dated, but what it identified is I actually went and reviewed it on Instagram. And so and that's one thing I like, or not Instagram, LinkedIn. I like to review some of the research I'm writing. It helps with me with my own learning. But some of the reasons why remote work, it's not just going to go away, why it's going to stick is that people have discovered, hey, there's this productivity advantage, and then they've made these investments of time and money into the software as well as the hardware for remote work. And then so around, on average, this study shows about $561 in software, and maybe there's that nicer subscription, and then you bought some headsets and some cameras and like a mic. I got like a mic right here. And so you've made those investments, and then you've had to spend on average about 15 hours learning how to use some of these things. So you're more comfortable with it. So there's the money amount, there's the fact that you're more productive, and then there's this stigma that, hey, working remote, it diminishes both employees and employers, like their connections. People are kind of over that. They're like, yeah, all those things about productivity, it's actually not true. So there's some little bit of stigma that's been addressed through being kind of forced into remote work. That wasn't as bad as people might have thought. And then there's these, and I see this diminishing, but one of the next ones was this ongoing concerns about crowd and contagion. And so that was more apparent like in 2021, 2022, where people were like, okay, I don't have to wear a mask anymore. Can I still go to the store? And they're worried about people coughing. Like my kids were like at church coughing, and no one said anything. But a few years ago, they would have been like, "Get your kids out of here," Um, so anyway, don't get me. My kids aren't coughing like everywhere, so don't worry about that. They just had a little sniffles, but but also there's been this surge, and the last thing was a surge in technological innovation. So we saw these patents for technologies that enable remote work just skyrocket. since the pandemic. This was revisited and it still continues to be addressed. There's so many companies that are building software that allow for distributed work. From cloud software to video conferencing, the Zoom that we're on today is different than the Zoom from 2020, 2021. It's getting better. There's going to be eventually telepresence, almost everything shy of teleportation. I'm still rooting for that one though, as a Star Trek fan. But again, these things are the technology is advancing, and then this really good the Stanford article is really addresses the importance of structured hybrid. So that seems to be kind of winning. There's jobs that just are not compatible with remote work. So oh well, it may not, if you want remote work, go find the job that's more compatible with it. But even still, there are companies that are saying, you know what? There are days that you'll spend a full hour coming into the office and doing training, going through modules, not actually doing your job. Let's say you're a diesel mechanic and you're going over safety trainings, you're going over other policies and procedures. Those things can largely be done at home. And so they're allowing employees on days that they don't actually have to be in the office, that they're doing reports or other things. They're saying, hey, go home. And they're allowing them, even if it's like once a month. But even if an organization, and this goes for land grant universities, if if remote work is going to be a strategy for continuity of business operations, just like a fire drill, just like any other earthquake, we do earthquake drills out here or tornadoes. Maybe, just maybe, you should be, practicing it once a month, once every few months, and allowing people to work from home a few days at minimum a month, so that you can maintain this strategy for distributed operations, that continuity of business operations, so that there's not this huge shock when you have to, when you have to not be home. So a lot of employers are like, they have this expectation that employees should be working from home, after 5 p.m. And it's like, oh, thanks for the remote work policy. I don't really want to work from home after I do pull a full day at the office. Well, if that's the case, if there's this expectation that you need to be available, well then, our devices provided, is software provided for those things, or are you expecting employees to take their desktops in their car every single day when they go home? So that's kind of the update on remote work and where we're at. I'm going to check the chat and see. Let's see here. Looks like Jamie, we've got a comment about AI, concerns about information. It pulls. Yeah, you got to be careful about some things may not be valid. It's gotten better. You used to be able to say, like, if let's say I'm writing a lit review on remote work and I'm like, hey, give me some articles about remote work, it will literally make articles up. Now that was GPT like 3.5. GPT-4 has gotten better, and let's demo this. I'll do a demo for that and show you how you can verify. And so, yeah, what tools do you feel are helpful for complementing extension work? So, I'll show you a ChatGPT plug, custom GPT that can help with that. And it looks like you're using Microsoft Copilot. And let's see here. I end up doing a lot of the work based on the draft, but then, yeah, yeah, like you can never copy and everyone just never copy and paste from AI. Like it's always going to be, it's going to be helpful, but you can't just, and I mean, if I get another email that starts off with like, I hope you are doing well, or what is that? It's like, I know that AI wrote that, and it diminishes the sender's, credibility. So I get kind of disappointed in people who are just like I always tell my kids, when you cut corners, you get cut short. And so like just again, be careful because it's getting more and more obvious. If you're using AI regularly, you're going to be able to read, kind of see who else is using AI to, write things, and to send like an email to a colleague that and it sounds like a bot wrote it. It's just kind of, yeah, it's no good. Yeah, so Leslie said, since the day of dial-up internet, I could work from anywhere because of working events, trade shows, conferences, and it was understood to work out or in the office. Yeah, I mean, I tell our staff, that are required to be out in the field doing extension activities in person. Um, it's all about professional hours. Some days you're working late into the night. The next day you shouldn't be in the office at 8 a.m., 9 a.m. And managers, we gotta understand that. And same with staff that are kind of tied to the office. We have front desk staff that they greet the public, and if they go, oh, where's Paul? Oh, he's never here. Well, that's not something you say, and everyone knows what I'm talking about if you're out in the field. And that's not something you say. You just, yeah, he's busy, right? So you got to be careful how you convey that to the public, and then also and then how managers, should not have these expectations. Just be upfront. Hey, I worked late. Having a communication channel like say Slack or Microsoft Teams, or hey, I worked till 10 o'clock last night at the livestock show. I'll be in like at noon the next day. Okay, like managers need to understand that. Uh, uh, so let's jump into AI. Uh, so the really the introduction of like an AI tool in this material science lab at MIT, it showed that it increased productivity, but it reduced job satisfaction. So okay, so to dive into this one a little bit, and I need to study it some more. So scientists using AI discovered 44% more new materials. So they're in this lab, it's where they discover materials or material scientists, and they filed 39% more patents and prototype 17% more products compared to like their peers. And so though those productivity gains were concentrated among researchers already in like the top decile of productivity, 82% of AI-enabled researchers reported reduced satisfaction with their work as the tool automated a particularly energizing and inspiring part of their job. So it's cool to have those outcomes, and that's great, but it's the process. It's the what did Miley Cyrus say? It's the climb. I don't listen to Miley Cyrus, but someone was singing her song, but they talked about the song. It was about the climb. It was about the journey, right? Not about the destination. So the destination being, publications, patents, new materials, all these breakthroughs, incredible. But man, be careful because we do what we do not for the pay, because we enjoy the process. And if we start using AI maybe inappropriately or too much, it can take away our satisfaction, our job satisfaction. So that's a warning. That's a warning that maybe you hadn't considered. And and then uh, and then the kind of the next one is that U.S. worker productivity. Let's see, I think it was this one. Oh yeah, here it is. The Bureau of Labor Statistics. They showed, and this is hard. This one's difficult, but to look at on such a macro level. But U.S. worker productivity rose 2% in the third quarter from a year prior, and so that was according to the Department of Labor. And so it was the fifth quarter in a row with an increase of 2% or more, and that's since AI really became um, a more wide. It's just becoming more widespread since November of 22 when ChatGPT was released, and so that's a marked shift from the half decade before the pandemic when there were only two quarters that showed these increases. So we're seeing like productivity rise, and it's hard to point to AI, but when you have something as massive and widespread as AI with millions and millions of adopters happening so fast, and then all of a sudden you see productivity rise. That's pretty interesting. And so economists are pointing to like new technologies, AI, but also you have to consider like the influx of immigration, widespread hybrid remote work, working remote. Again, it's more productive. And then also job switching that moved workers into like more productive or highly skilled jobs. So there's other factors involved. It's not just AI, but this like cocktail of factors is showing productivity increase, which is great. But it's unclear whether like these productivity gains, like if they're going to keep persisting as they did like after like the introduction of say personal computers. So we saw that it fueled this like steady productivity gains of like 2 to 6% in like every quarter except for two. But that was from 1996 to 2003. So there's this era of like strong, faster processors and computers and laptops, more people just adopting PCs and so we saw this like productivity boost. So we're kind of seeing that again, which is really fascinating. But for workers, sustained productivity increases, it could mean higher wages. So if employees choose to pass any like productivity driven profit gains um, to workers, that could look like bonuses and raises. So some people say like, oh, AI is not going to replace your job, but your job's going to be replaced by someone who uses AI. Yeah, maybe that's true. But it's nothing to be scared about. I would say if I heard that, I would say, I need to get better at AI. And so then let's see here, this Wall Street Journal articles, yeah, that kind of pointed to more productivity. And then this study here, um, it pointed to the fact that AI adoption can increase job stress and burnout. And so there's effective learning programs that can help with these like negative effects. But according to this research, this was like South Korean workers, the authors recommend that organizations, seeking to introduce AI, they create learning programs that allow workers to gradually develop their sense of confidence with AI because it's just really overwhelming. Like there might be a few of you on the call that are like, oh, this is no problem. I got this, and you're enjoying it. You're using it all the time. But man, there's so much. I feel overwhelmed, and I'm using it every day. I got multiple accounts that are paid accounts. And some people say, well, if you're not using the paid account, you don't know the power of it all. And you're like, how do I afford this? I don't have a budget for it. So anyway, but you want to gradually increase your confidence in using AI tools, and then in order to like minimize that potential burnout. So burnout, it's real. Like, it's really stressful. It's just like we had a bunch of people. We created these. We went from paper receipts to this workflow automation. Uh, for all of our expenses. And so everything was digital, and then you'd get an email every time you had to approve an expense. It was kind of annoying. And we literally had people who, if they were in the system like 30 years, they were like, "Well, I was planning to stay, but I can leave at any time and forget this." Like they just Oh, and then dual factor authentication. Like they have to like get into Box or something, and oh, I got to enter this code. It's on my phone too, and that drove, man. I would say my estimates were at least 10% of our workforce said, "Forget this. I'm out. I'm retired." Where those of us who I was like, I felt like that, but I got to keep working. I got kids at home. So the one thing I wanna warn everyone of is just AI generated phishing scams that target organizational leaders. We all represent universities or large corporations, and if you're in a position to where you have access to like databases and things like that, be very careful. AI, they're using AI bots and technology to call you and ask you questions to get um, to get a sample of your voice and to find out, get you to say some certain words to then they can clone your voice and then use your voice to scam members of your family or even your organization to get the passwords you need. So what if someone who sounded like you called IT and had all your credentials, uh, and was able to get information to log into, university resources, corporate resources, your banking information. Like that's scary. So someone who sounded exactly like you with all your credentials, could call your bank. Like again, be very careful. So cyber criminals, they're using AI bots to analyze online profiles, harvest your personal details, because these bots, they don't get tired. They don't burn out. And they're crafting these, phishing emails to trick all of us into sharing just private company organizational information. So login credentials, money transfers, all sorts of these things. And so again, be careful of those things. If you think it's a bot, just hang up. Your bank's not going to call you about certain things. They'll call you to verify, but it's like, hey, you know what? Give me the number and I'll call you back. That's a good strategy to make sure you're not going to get scammed. Um, Ethan Mollick, he's another one. I talked about Brian Elliott. Ethan Mollick is he's a Wharton professor he's posting every day. He's doing all the research, and so he's looking at different platforms and what they can do. And in this Substack, he let's see here, he's talking about like who's better at generating images, and so yeah, I think this one's about. Let's see here. You're able to chat with AI now. So ChatGPT has this like voice chat, has probably the best features, but they call it live mode and advanced voice mode. So he goes over like what's ChatGPT like better at than say Gemini, and what's Gemini better at? Gemini's by Google. What are they better? What's it better at? What about Claude and Copilot and all those? So he reviews those. This one's worth a read, but yeah, that's kind of uh, where we're at with AI. It's just constantly advancing. It's not so much about what's the right platform. Maybe you'll get to that point where you're like, okay, I want the best platform for whatever you're using it for. But I would say just start using it. Learn prompt engineering. I did an article on prompt engineering and some of the basics of it, and I can even do a demo here in a sec about how to get what you want. It's not so much about getting exactly what you want on the first try. It's just about having that conversation with AI, finding out what it knows. As an expert, as extension in extension, we're experts. We can tell what's crap and what's good. Unfortunately, 16-year-olds they don't know, and I'm really worried about their critical thinking and just the fact that they're cutting corners. Although I will say. Um, I was able to, help my son. He's in 4-H. He's a 4-H member, and he's like, Dad, we're getting a Jersey Mike's in town, and I want to get a job. And he's 15. He's got his work permit, and I was like, okay, let's get all your information together. Let's put together your resume. And not only did he do that, but he did a cover letter, emailed it to the new franchise owner, and like 3 hours later, they responded. They loved it. They're like, we haven't even met you, but come on in for an interview. He chatted with AI to give him some advice. Well, he fed it information on the job description to make sure that his resume aligned with what they were looking for based on his 4-H experience and his meager freelance experience, doing things at the fair and whatnot. But he was able to align that with the job description and then write a compelling enough cover letter to land that interview, and then also chat with the kind of do a mock interview um, with uh, with the AI chat feature, live mode, and to anticipate some of the questions they would ask and how he should respond, and then to get feedback on his responses. And so, yeah, he got the job, and I'm really proud of him because he didn't make the volleyball team, and he was pretty sad about that. But I'm all for getting on teams that pay you versus expensive sports. So so anyway, yeah, Leslie, you said usually you hang up and don't answer the question. Yeah, dude, be very careful that they're scamming. And again, we're working on a digital navigator program to help our seniors because they're the most vulnerable to this. But also, we don't want to discount our young people. And they're gonna like my 15-year-old would totally fall for something like this, just because he's just not. His generation doesn't. Then again, maybe not because he doesn't pick up the phone ever. He'll text me back. So so anyway, but again, the younger population is quite vulnerable. So if anyone has anything they need to do for work, um, I I can demo some AI for you. If you need it, if you have a task, maybe just drop it in the chat. But other questions? Are we about out of time, Ron?
We've got about 8 minutes left. I'm curious to see a demo of some sort. What would it be?
I want to be helpful. So if it's if I can do someone's work for him today, I'd be happy to. Let's see here. Do you find AI lacking in agriculture language? Hmm. I don't. I'm not an ag agent.
I would say that even some of the voice recognition stuff, agriculture is lacking. I get goofy things if I uh, say, some ag term and the computer doesn't recognize it.
Yeah. Well, how about this? Why don't we do this one? Okay, so if you this is my enterprise ChatGPT account, and you have right here you have different models. Okay, and so 4.5, 4.0, I use that one quite a bit, but the newest one is 4.5, and it does research, deep research. I wonder if yeah, it's the research preview. Let me make sure. Okay. And so it will do research on a topic. So um, let's again, prompts, you really got to be thoughtful about these things, but let's say you are I won't repeat what I say, but I'll just uh, okay. And
Yeah. Yes.
so so we're gonna write a literature review. Uh, Yeah, let's do that. And let's do only reference research based scholarly journal articles. How's that? Anything you guys want to add to that?
It's great.
Let's have some fun with it. Write in the style of give me a good writing. J.K. Rowling. You want to do that?
Uh,
Okay. Give me a word out there. What's a funny word? Use the word um uh just
Meathead.
meathead. Okay. Yeah, you just you want to make sure it's listening to you. Um okay, is that enough? Is there anything else anyone wants to
that's good.
add? Okay.
That's good.
Okay. So these let's see here. Okay, so this is the deep research. So that little icon, that's a deep research mode. It can take several minutes to crank this out. So what we're going to do is we're going to start that one, and it's going to ask me, hey, can you clarify a few things? Okay, do you want the literature review to focus specifically on rural areas in a particular country? I'll put USA. And then the second one, how long would you like the literature review to be? How about 500 words? Because we don't have a lot of time. And let's do last one. Would you like the tone to be whimsical and narrative, like J.K. Rowling's fiction, or more scholarly, but with Rowling-esque flair? What do you guys want? I feel like whimsical.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just put that here. All right, it's gonna go to work. Okay, so it's confirming that it knows everything. So it's starting the research. It's going to spend some time doing research. And this research, this model has been compared to like a PhD student. Um, Maybe, maybe not. Let's see how far we get. One thing that I would say is on Gemini, let's so for instance, here's something that I need to do. I do a newsletter and I like to share helpful articles. So here's a I use, and I know I'm kind of old. I use Safari, um, but let's do this one. So there's this Forbes article where they talk about the 5 companies. So I'm gonna go to my reader view, and I'm gonna copy and paste this whole article. And here it ends right there. I think. Okay. All right. So then I'm gonna go back to Gemini, and I'm gonna say, uh, write a blurb for a remote work newsletter. Um, from this, and then article content. All right, so I pasted it in there, and the programmer in me is likes to kind of, you got to kind of think like AI. This helps a little bit. Um, I'll say give it a title and limit the blurb to 3 sentences. Write in a professional style. Okay. And I've got Grammarly in, so I can highlight this and it'll suggest things. Uh, okay. All right. So it kind of updates that for me, cleans it up a little bit. Sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's not. Okay, so I think this should be good. Let's see how they do it. Yeah, it'll do it pretty quick. So boom,
Wow.
there. It got all that information and made a relevant blurb. It's really good at summarizing. It's really good at condensing information. And so let's go back to ChatGPT. It's gathering some insights here. We got like hopefully another minute. Um, but Copilot's pretty good. One thing I've found is let's do a YouTube video. And let's do, I think there was a K-State. Let's see where
We're gonna run out of time here, Paul.
oh, all right. But you could get a video, take the link, paste it in the Gemini and say summarize this video, and it'll do that in whatever format you need. But I'll send out the results of that literature review. So we're out of time. Wish I could keep going. But thanks everybody.
Well, fantastic stuff. My goodness, we would appreciate it if you could follow up with some those information sources. Um, uh, we'll have to come back to this topic because that was really fascinating, and I see lots of kudos in the chat. So thanks an awful lot, Paul. We appreciate your great work and your leadership in this area. Um,
Look forward to connecting at NACDAP or other activities. But yeah, look forward to connecting again and sharing more. So
Appreciate you, Paul. Just one quick reminder, our next Remote Work Wednesday will be on May 14. Renfro Consulting will be talking to us about working effectively with remote clients as Laura and Mike have done for many years. So make sure you join us on May 14. With that, thanks to all of you for joining us and have a wonderful Remote Work Wednesday. Good afternoon.